Hi there. This is a response to Pink Moon. She had a video in which she asked Barklord 3 questions. I thought the questions were good. They're either paraphrases or exact quotes from those that Amendum, Do Not God Gary, has asked multiple times. He tends to ask them and then to answer them. So I think as a thought experiment, it might make sense for everybody to do what I'm doing, and that is to try to answer the questions just as you would, and without any script, without a lot of thinking. Just look at them cold and try to answer them, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm also going to talk about, there'll be a link in the low bar. Tranquil87 had some questions for, I don't know if he said aphilists or antinatalists. And I thought those were good as well. So they're both in the low bar. And I would invite everybody to look at Pink Moon's video and to try to answer the questions, not as you've heard them answered, because they have been answered multiple times here. And they usually tend to be answered in exactly the same way by the same people. But to answer them cold, the way you would answer them if you were confronted with them and they were the first time that you had even encountered the question, which is what I'm going to try to do. And here goes. Here's the first question. If life is not about consumption, reproduction, cannibalism, and addiction, then what is your definition? This is, as I said, it's Amendum's wording. It's the way he's often presented the question. And basically, it's a question about if there is or is not any purpose to existence. And the truth is, of course, that the universe is an unconscious place. It's a place that we inhabit. It cares not whether we're here or life is here in general. It doesn't care. And the struggle for existence, which Darwin pointed out very eloquently, is one that seems extremely brutal and extremely competitive in ways that are disconcerting to our consciousness and should be. You see a lot of suffering and death in the process of the propagation of life. Absolutely. You would have to be blind not to know that's true. And not to care about it, you'd have to be you'd have to be extremely callous. So I do think that any thinking, feeling human being cares and looks at what happens and wants to do something about it. The question is, what happens when we phrase that to ourselves as consumption, reproduction, cannibalism, and addiction? We are already talking about things that are not objective in the sense of objective facts. But that aside, it's true that we should care, and we do care. I mean, most of us care that there is suffering. What can we do about caring? Well, does it make sense? Is it possible to say that because we care, we should eradicate, erase, extinguish all life? Is that a possibility? I don't know for sure if it's a possibility. I do know that I don't think it makes a lot of sense to try to do it, and here's why. Life is everywhere on the planet. Life is everything that we have ever known as human beings. And we are in the position of, would all of us ever agree to extinguishing and eradicating all life? I think, and I feel this way very strongly, I care as much, I think, as it's possible to care. I hope I do. I try to. But I don't think I would agree to eradicate all life because of it. The reason I don't is because I think we're going to be in the future not what we are in the past. And the inequity and the disjunct between suffering and existence might and could very likely um, be helped in the future. To give up, it is a struggle. It's a struggle. It to me is braver and smarter and a stronger position to say that we as a species, as a human being, flexible species capable of making changes to our world if we put our minds to it, should not give up without a struggle to try to care about each other and to care about animals that suffer and to try to do something about it. To give up without a struggle doesn't seem to me to make sense. It just doesn't. But to realize that in saying that, it's a tough decision and it's one that we should be taking very seriously. Which brings me to the third question. What do you think the future is going to be like? That's a really good question. I really like it. And we're all guessing, okay? Each and every one of us who will venture out on the thin ice of trying to tell other people what the future is going to be are making guesses. But I'm guessing by looking at the fact that human beings are a flexible, smart species when we want to be, and we're creative when we want to be. And I don't think the past is the future. I think that the past doesn't have to be the future, at least. And yes, I mean, the past, there have been times when, as the cliche goes, the living have envied the dead. And the future could be that as well. But it doesn't have to be. It's not written yet. And it means that we can, if we care about each other, and that means about everything, our environment and other animals, if we can learn at least to care about each other, we don't have to accept the future being a futile, useless, horrible, dysfunctional place. We don't have to do that because changes happen all the time, and changes for the better happen very often. Not often enough yet, and that's the absolute truth. Not often enough, but we can care. And if we care, we don't have to say the only two choices are either suffering or non-existence or the eradication of all life. There is a third choice, and that third choice is to realize how flexible we are and how smart we are and how caring we can be, and to try to do things that will make a difference. And yes, individually, our little efforts might seem like not much, but the cliche acting locally and thinking, I mean, think globally, act locally. If you do care as an individual and you want to make a change, and you work in your community to see that change happen, that's the most as individuals with limited power most of us will be able to do. But we should be able to do it well. And if we all of us did that, and that includes things like seeing how we could get a grip on population. There are far too many of us on the planet, all right? So we could educate women. That's a great way to um, bring down numbers, population numbers. We can individually say that if we feel this way, the planet is overstressed, it doesn't need any more human beings. That's an individual choice that makes a big difference. And it's a choice and it's a choice, by the way. As far as I'm concerned, it's a choice. And it's one that you have to use persuasion to get other people to think about. So that might mean making it possible for people in developing countries to make those choices not to have big families, and doing it, as I said, by educating women or educating just individuals in general, um, and giving people resources that will really make a difference because we care about them. Um, and that as I said, I did this cold and without a script. And so it's a disjoint and it's rambly, and I apologize for that. Now, as far as whether ethylism is a cult or not, if you're an ethylist, you can self-define any way you choose to self-define. If you think you're being encouraged to think for yourself, and you still want to classify yourself as an ethylist, um, I have no objection. I don't think anybody would. So do whatever you think you want to do. But the critical thing here is try, all of us should, not just ethlists and antinatalists, but all of us should try to think for ourselves and not be told what to think, because that just leads to outcomes that, don't take us to good places, in my opinion. So try this yourselves if you have the time, and take a look at Pink Moon's video and take a look at Tranquil 87. Both of them, I think, are first steps in a very good direction, or at least that's my opinion. You guys take care of yourselves. Bye bye.